Welcome to our webinar on ministry design process. Today we're going to look at a preliminary assessment, a set of questions that you can ask in order to help you audit and assess just where your ministry is as you begin your ministry design process, that you have a strong idea of the condition of your flock. We've broken the process into 4 phases: discovery, design, delivery, and direction. In our ministry design process components overview, we take you through the different components or the steps of each one of these 4 phases. But today we're going to ask you one question after another to hopefully spur your thinking about the condition of your congregation and your particular situation. Contextually, where are you in your ministry? In the ministry design process, as we show you this pyramid, one thing builds upon another. So as we go through this, one of the key things that we normally find is that churches often have either an underdeveloped or an undeveloped ministry design. And we want to help you ask the important questions. So, for instance, what would you say is most important to your church right now? What is mission critical? What is the bandwidth of your ministry? By that I mean your capability as a ministry. For instance, I am capable of juggling tennis balls, but I am limited in my capacity to juggle tennis balls. I can't do 5 or 6 at one time. I can do 2 at a time. So I'm capable, but I also have to understand what is the capacity. With your ministry, what are you capable of? But what is your capacity within that capability? What is the bandwidth of your property? I ask this because you have to balance out not only the bandwidth of your ministry and congregation, but your property, your campus, your buildings. Whether you're leasing or renting or borrowing, or you own your own facilities, whether you're all in one location or multi-siting, that you need to have a thorough understanding of the bandwidth of your physical property before you start your ministry design. So here are things you need to have in order that you need to be able to answer. What ministry space is needed most? So as you look at your ministry and you begin to go through it, you need to balance out what you're capable of doing as a ministry with what the capacity of your facility is. You can't start, let's say, an invitational basketball tournament for high schoolers from all over your region if you don't have access to a gymnasium, if you don't have a place for them to play, indoors or outdoors. Same thing goes for a soccer invitational high school tournament, basketball, baseball, football, pick your sport. You better have the ministry space. So here's another question for you to assess. Where is your main focus? What is your disciple-making process? What is your volunteer recruitment process? What is your leadership development process? As you begin to look at your ministry, do you find it as being developed, underdeveloped, or undeveloped? In looking at the first of 4 phases of our ministry design process, the discovery phase, we have a number of questions that we want to ask you, and this is not exhaustive or comprehensive. It is just a list to begin helping you think through, to stir your thinking on the condition of your flock. First, we want to look at the congregational discovery. There are things that you need to know about your church congregation. The first one is your congregational code. This is your ethos, or the essence of who you are. Do you understand this? We'll explain how to understand your code and how to discover your code during our ministry design process with our videos. Core values. Now, there are genuinely 2 types of core values in the area that I'm speaking. One is those values that you know you ought to aspire to, and then there are values that you know are your actual values. We're looking for your actual values. Do you have misalignment in your congregation or agreement on what the core values are? Part of your ministry design process is to help you identify your actual core values and to develop them so that you know what's driving your ministry forward. Your mission or your mandate. Sometimes churches end up with competing causes. And one person feels like the purpose of their church is this, and another group over here feels like the purpose of your church is this. Again, there needs to be alignment and agreement, not competition between different groups or different people with the mission. The same thing goes for vision. What Gary McIntosh calls double vision, I call dueling vision or competing visions. And the number one reason I am told that pastors are either dismissed, fired from their post, from their pastorate, or they're made insignificant or become ineffective is when there are dueling visions. And so the chairman of your elders or deacons or stewards or your board or several guys on your board, people on your board have a different vision for what the ministry is going to become than you do as the senior pastor. There has to be alignment and agreement, and you need to discover, to identify if you have misalignment and competing, dueling visions, missions, core values, or if you don't understand who in the world you are as a congregation with your code. Next, you need to identify your culture. Samuel Chan wrote a good book on breaking your congregational culture, your culture code. It's understanding what the culture of your church is, and he talks about the different kind of leaders and the cultures that exist in churches. So you need to pin this down, nail it down as to exactly what kind of culture your church has. And then the condition of your church. Are you fit and healthy, or just fit but not healthy? Because you can be physically fit for a particular task, but not be free of disease as a congregation. Or you can be declared healthy, free of disease, but not be fit for a particular ministry task or objective or cause or calling. Then you need to look at your congregation's commitment to your ministry overall and to your mission. Are they energized by it? Are they inspired by it? Or do they feel compelled to be a part of what God is doing there at your church? You need to judge where the people are. Then your conduct. You need to make an assessment about what are they actually doing with their lives. It's one thing to say that they love the church, but everything is put before it. Or they are committed to Christ, but Christ is something that they've just tacked on to their life. He actually is not the ruler, the Lord of their life. And so you look at their commitment and you judge their commitment by their conduct. And you can also judge the condition of your flock by looking at their conduct. And when you identify their core values, it will tell you what priorities are most important to them, what's driving them in their individual lives. Lots of churches have misalignment with their vision and mission, with their core values and their code. We want to help you get all of those in alignment, identify what is there so that your ministry can thrive and not just, work to survive. Then we want to talk about and help you discover and assess your community. This is where your church is. Where is it located? So you want to look at the demographics. Demographics will deal with common things that, we have a census every 10 years in our country that will tell you the demographics are the age groups, families, the ages, the education, the income, whether they own or rent their house, and a number of other things that are there that give you an idea of who is in your community. The second discovery are psychographics. This is taking the demographics, and now we're going to go find out how people think. What's their worldview? What is their culture like? How do they view government, church, Christ, each other, economics, on and on and on. It's their psychographics is how they think. And then eclographics is a study that you may struggle to find a place that will provide this for you, but missioninsight.org and also perceptgroup.org it might be .com, but they'll give you some eclographics. That is what churches are where, and if you dig into it, you can find out what kind of people are going to what kind of church. What if you could pinpoint that there was a certain type of person that gravitated by their very demographics and psychographics to your kind of church? So you can set up a target group or blend and design your strategic planning to reach out to that low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that is easiest for you to reach, or that maybe you're called of God to reach. So eclographics tells you who's going to the churches and where the churches are. I believe you want to look for some common links. And do you see these? Do you see bridges that will connect your church to your community? Do you see belts that would wrap around and bring together bundles of opportunities so that your ministry can find ways to interact and to reach out and to fulfill the Great Commission? So you're looking for bridges, belts, and bundles to help you, and you need to identify where you are best suited to reach your community and who in your community is best set up by the Lord for you to reach. And if you want to approach it this way, it's not the only way to approach it, that you can begin to identify where the bridges, what belts would bundle together opportunities, and so that you can strategically plan to reach them. During the design phase, you're going to do strategic planning. So here are some questions for you to help you prepare for this phase. During the design phase, the strategic planning phase, you need to be able to answer what is your particular plan for obeying God's calling. What are you currently doing? How are you carrying out God's calling in your church? What can you do to give you the easiest avenue to people in your community? What is the easiest avenue for you right now? Identify what you're currently doing to help you develop a plan for the future and what you might need to do differently or better, improve on, and we'll talk in a moment about the levels of change when it comes to ministry design. How can you best connect to them? Is there agreement on how your ministry design translates into a facility design? And so again, we're back to balancing out not only your ministry and how it functions, but the campus that God has given you, that you're either borrowing or renting, leasing, or you're purchased, maybe you're multi-site, and you've got to look at your campus because it's got to accommodate what you believe God would have you to do in your strategic planning. And also, is there agreement about how that will look? So as you look at your property and your ministry, and you got to marry that together so that the tool of your property, your campus, is to be serving your ministry. What is all that going to look like? Is there agreement about your ministry priorities? What's first, second, third, and fourth? If you had to stop defunding, if you had to stop funding one or two ministries in your church, or you had to reduce fundings, which one would have the lower priority? So, or which ones might you need to phase out? And I know that can be a really explosive discussion. Is there agreement about your overall game plan to fulfill the Great Commission? Right now, do you have alignment and agreement and attunement? Meaning people's hearts are with you, not just their heads, but they are committed in their conduct, in what they believe, in their character, and every part of them is showing that these people are on board and willing to move ahead with discovering God's mind on every matter and how He would have us to carry out His will. Are your ministries in alignment? And you've got to be able to answer these things in more questions than these. Then there comes implementation. It's fine to have a strategic plan, a nice notebook that you hand out and give to people, and they can see what your game plan is for fulfilling the Great Commission. But how are you going to put it into action? How do you put God's vision for your ministry into action, put it into play, carry it out. So are your ministries in alignment so that they are in agreement and they're going to work together? How is your ministry performance? And so when you look at your ministries, are they performing well? Are they performing in alignment? Are they performing together? Are they working against each other? Is your ministry organized, coordinated, orchestrated? I mean, someone's leading it and orchestrating it together. Are you interrelated? Is there good teamwork, not only just in the individual, say the children's ministry, but everybody is working together. They're not just watching after their own little portion, but there's teamwork both in the individual ministries and then overall as a congregation. So as you begin to look at whether your ministries are in alignment and how well they're performing together, you need to have a grading system to help you determine what's going to need special attention during the ministry design process. Ministry production. Is spiritual transformation taking place? Are you getting the results you planned? So as you look at your existing ministry and assess what is there, how well are you performing? How well are you in alignment and attunement, agreement? Are you seeing lives transformed? People coming to Christ and making definite changes in their life and their commitment to Christ? Are they progressing and growing in Christ-likeness? And are they giving themselves to service? Are they becoming a fully devoted and developed follower of Christ? So are you getting the results that you've planned to this point? As you identify that, how would you grade yourself? So let me make a suggestion to you. When you look at everything, I would suggest that you go about to manage what you're currently doing to help you prepare to go through your next ministry design. So you need to monitor what you're doing. So you implemented your plan. Now you're going to monitor it and measure it, and then you're going to make modifications. These are part of the steps of the ministry design process that can take 6 months to 3 years to go through this process of hammering all this out. And let me encourage you, doing it the first time can be complex, confusing. There can be disagreement. It can seem to take forever. But after you've gone through this process and you continue to move forward with it and manage the process, you will find it is easier and easier for you to make use of the architectural processes that allow you to keep up with the changing environment that your church exists in order for you to stay up with what God is doing and to partner with Him in the cause of Christ. And so if you're going to join God in His redemptive passion and His redemptive plan, and you want to be a part of what God is doing in your church and through your church, you're going to need to manage your strategic plan as you implement it. So as you currently look at what you're doing and you begin to monitor it and measure it, what modifications need to be made? How might you manage it? Because it leads to something else, and that is the level of change that you believe you need to make as you look at your existing ministry. So let me summarize the ministry design. First, you want to have a total grasp on your church identity. Who are you? What are you called to do, and how are you called to do it? Secondly, you want to have a full understanding of your community. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to reach? Where are you trying to reach them? And how are you trying to reach them? Right now, as you look at your existing ministry, how would you answer and assess, do you know the answers to these? Thirdly, your ministry master plan. Your ministry master plan is your long-term vision for your campus and ministry, but it's every part, person and place, policy and procedure, program. It's everything about your ministry, and you have master planned it together, and your strategic plan is a part of that ministry master plan. So as you look at your overall ministry and every person, every personnel, every part, every program, every procedure, every plan you put together, every place you're going to be doing it, everything about it. It's all involved in this. You need to have a grasp of every portion of your ministry. So as you look at your church benchmarks, what is your projected growth rate? As you look at your growth cycle and your age cycle, do you understand the life cycle of a church? Every church has one, just like humans have a life cycle. Not every church lives to be 100 years of age. Some live to be 40 years of age and die prematurely. But every church has that. What are you looking to do about your growth cycle and your age cycle? Churches have the privilege and the opportunity to continue growing and continue reaching. They don't have to die in a certain number of years. You can continue to move ahead. So as you look at your church model benchmarks, how are you growing and how are you aging? And have you done something about the plateaued or declining situation you're in? Because you can. And what is your game plan? As you look at your ministry master plan, what is your game plan, both for the next year and 3 years and 5 years? But overall, as you look down the road, where do you see your church being? Where do you think God's leading you? So the ministry design process, and let me talk for a moment about some levels of design change and cost. As you look at your ministry, and you're going to make a decision about doing something with it because you know that you're plateaued or in decline, perhaps dying, and you want to reverse that decline and pull your church out of the plateau, or you're not even growing at the rate you feel God has given you the potential to grow, what are you going to do? Well, you've got to decide what you're going to do as far as designing your ministry. Are you going to restore it to its original luster where you're not making much changes other than polishing, if you were doing a house and restoring it, polishing the door handles, sweeping the floor, washing the walls down. You're not painting, you're not papering, you're not recarpeting, you're not replacing doors. You're just taking what is there and cleaning it up. Then you have refurbishing, which involves restoration, but now you're going to change out some stuff that's broken. And it may be all cosmetic, because when you get to the third level of renovation, now you're going to replace major systems. So in a church setting, that would be replacing major processes and programs, maybe personnel, and you're going to renovate it so that you're doing restoration and refurbishing, but this is a much heavier, more expensive, time-consuming level. And the cost is greater. And people are probably going to push back, and you'll have a greater resistance to that. The fourth level is to redesign. That means you take what is there and you're going to redesign it. It's still a Chevy, but now you're going to redesign it and move things around. The last level, instead of just redesigning your ministry, where it still has the same bone structure, the same structure to it, or same foundation, now you're going to replace it entirely. So it'd be like picking a house up and moving it off the property and bringing a brand new house or building a brand new house in its place. So as you go through the ministry design process and you begin to assess exactly where your church is and the condition of your flock, you're going to have to make some decisions as to what you're going to restore, what you're going to refurbish, what you're going to renovate, what you'll just redesign, or what you'll completely replace. And at what level are you going to do this? With every ministry or the whole ministry? Then you've got to count the cost. Luke 14:28-32. What man goeth to build a tower and does not first count the cost to see if he can finish the process? For if he gets its foundation laid and can't finish it, he is ridiculed, he is mocked. And it shows your lack of good leadership and management. When you go through this, I suggest that you spend a lot of time on your knees with the Lord, that you do a lot of research, surveys, interviews. We can help you at Ministry Design Concepts with this by doing a ministry assessment or a ministry audit with you to help you and walk you through this process. We can do it both through the ministry design training, through this website, through our question and answer time, but only at a certain level. Or we can give you one-on-one coaching to help you get through this. So you can reach out to us and get a hold of me, and reach out to us at this website or at this email address or either one of these two phone numbers to help you. If you have questions, just pause the video, scroll down to the comments section, type it in, finish watching this video, and when you're done asking your questions, giving your comments, simply place and punch submit, and it will shoot your comments to me, and we'll come back to you ASAP to begin helping you go through this process. I hope this preliminary questions or assessment has been helpful to you, and I want to encourage you to dig deeper into this, to ask questions, to patiently wait, to come away with a proper, honest, genuine, authentic, transparent assessment of where your ministry is, and then to earnestly walk with God and wait on Him to give you direction about at what level are you going to design your ministry. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this is a good start to your ministry design process.